Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Don't stand up so early. Sit down. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram Nam Nam Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 34. And this time also I'm filling in for Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, who is a little bit under the weather. We most likely and pray we'll see her on Friday. Normally she does the class today, but hopefully Friday she'll be good to go. Hare Krishna. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalava Girivadadari Gopi Janavalava Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajakachaja Astottara Satasiti Maris Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Privajakachaja Astottara Satasiti Maris Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नाम आचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय इसकाम फाउंडर आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamanta ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Bhavanandi, Hari 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 Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Bless you, the Prabhupada. Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Krishna Bharata Uparchitatani, Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Narayana Namaskritya Naruncheva Naruttamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayat Nasya Prayeswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 34. Sanidhyasti Mahayogin Patakani Mahantyapi Sadhyo Nashanti Vepumsam Vishnu Vishnu Eva Suretara Sanidhyate Mahayogin Patakani Mahantyapi Sadhu Nashanti Vepumsam Vishnu Eva Suretara Sanidhyate Mahayogin Patakani Mahantyapi Sadhyo Nashanti Vepumsam Vishnu Eva Suretara. Hare Krishna. Please chant if you feel like it.
सानिध्याते महायोगिन् पातकानि महान्तपि सद्यो निश्यन्ति वै पुंसां विष्णोरिव सुरेतरः. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Word for word. We do word for word now. Sanidhyat, on account of the presence. Te, your. Mahayogin, O great mystic. Patakani, sins. Mahanti, invulnerable. Api, in spite of. Sadhya, immediately. Nashanti, vanquished. Ve, certainly. Pumsam, of a person. Vishnu, like the presence of the personality of Godhead. Eva, like. Sura Itara, other than the demigods. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two classes of human beings, namely the atheist and the devotee of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord, because of manifesting godly qualities, is called a demigod, whereas the atheist is called the demon. The demon cannot stand the presence of Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. The demons are always busy in trying to vanquish the personality of Godhead, but factually, as soon as the personality of Godhead appears, by either his transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, paraphernalia, or variegatedness, the demon is at once vanquished. It is said that a ghost cannot remain as soon as the holy name of the Lord is chanted. The great saints and devotees of the Lord are in the list of his paraphernalia. And thus, as soon as a saintly devotee is present, and ghostly sins are at once vanquished. The ghostly sins are at once vanquished. That is the verdict of all Vedic literatures. One is recommended, therefore, to associate only with saintly persons so that worldly demons and ghosts cannot exert their sinister influence. Oma Gyanati Vidandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya. Chakshu Umritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Akadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Okay. So, the translation again. Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. So who is speaking? That would be Maharaj Pariksit. He is describing the spiritual potency of Shukadev Goswami, the pure devotee of the Lord, who has come at the time that Maharaj Pariksit is at the bank of the Ganges, getting ready to leave the body because of the curse that he would leave the body in 7 days. So before the start of this conversation and wonderful preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadev Goswami, there is appreciation from Maharaj Pariksit for Shukadev Goswami's presence. Shukadev Goswami being a pure devotee and a resident of the spiritual world, Maharaj Pariksit is describing him in these words that with analogy, just like the atheist cannot remain in the presence of this personality of Godhead. The atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead. The atheist is one who does not believe in God. And the atheist is also the one that dislikes God. Disliking because they want to take control over things in the material world. But they know that they don't really own it. And they don't like the idea that they don't own it. They want to own it. They want to control it at least. And therefore, the supreme controller then becomes somebody they don't want to associate with, or they don't even want to see. So there are people who are atheists who say, there's no God. Where is God? Show me God. You can't show me God, therefore I cannot believe in God, and you don't yourself know what you're talking about. And as far as that's concerned, Srila Prabhupada changed it in a meeting with some professors in California. He said to them, I know you do not know who God is, and I'm showing you who God is. So why are you not accepting? To which one of them responded that, we've gotten old and we are kind of set in our ways. But the thing is, Srila Prabhupada's argument is, even in religion, if you want to know God, you have to know who he is. And you want to know God, religion is about knowing God and also how to love God. But if you don't know who he is, how would you be able to love God? That's why many of the prayers are demands for material things. And then when they get the material things, they're happy. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You gave me this material thing. But is love like that? What you get from someone else, that shows love to that person? No. Love to that person means you have to serve that person. So, by the mercy of Shukadev Goswami, knowing that Maharaj Pariksit was there at the banks of the Ganga, getting ready to leave his body, he gave his presence to Maharaj Pariksit so that Maharaj Pariksit would have a very, very valuable and glorious departure. Valuable in the sense that we would go back to the spiritual world, and glorious in the sense that the Supreme Personality of Godhead will be glorified just by the activities that take place there on the banks of the Ganga. Ganga herself is a very, 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 very high level devotee, come in the form of a river. So it's all good all around. And that's what we get when we associate with devotees of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada describes in the purport that there are two types of human beings, one that does not believe in God, and the one that not only believes in God, but is willing at any time to serve the Lord. The demigods have good qualities, and that's why devotees are compared to demigods, because they manifest godly qualities, just like the demigods. And the atheist is called a demon because a demon does not want to acknowledge the prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we even go to the extent of trying to convince people that there's no God. There is no God. And the planets just came to be. Obviously, difficult for any intelligent person to believe that planets just come to be. But there are some people who unfortunately believe that. The demons are busy trying to vanquish the personality of Godhead. Of course, they never succeed. But it is like that in the material world. They cannot, the demons that is, cannot have any effect in the spiritual world. But they are in the material world, and here they try all kinds of ways to control and to cheat and to try to hush people, get people quiet, and acquiesce to everything that the demons want. Sometimes they do it in secret so that people don't really know what's going on. And in that way, they can just institute all kinds of things which are not to the benefit of the people in general. So demonic people are like that. And you may ask, well, why do some people do some things like that? Well, who is a criminal? Why do criminals do crime? They have twisted minds, but this is something they like to do. So the demons are doing exactly the opposite of what the devotees do. And Srila Prabhupada compares the demons to darkness, and the Lord and the Lord's devotees to light. Whenever there is light, darkness immediately disappears. And one important information that Srila Prabhupada gives us is that the devotees are included in the paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's the Lord, there's his paraphernalia, and the pastimes of the Lord involve acting with his paraphernalia and his devotees. So it's lumped into one like that. So a saintly devotee being present means all sins, all demons are vanquished. And Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, the recommendation is we should associate with saintly devotees. When we associate with saintly devotees and we are in the light, therefore, darkness and plans involving darkness from the demons and ghosts cannot exert their influence. And Srila Prabhupada qualifies it by saying it's a sinister influence. A sinister influence. So we definitely are much better off relating to sadhus, to saints. Very, very important. And there's so many instances in the Shastra that stress the importance or the need for association with devotees or saints. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 28, Srila Prabhupada comments very nicely about this. that we are beings with the natural inclination to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead lovingly. That is the way in which the soul is constituted. The soul is permanent in terms of life forever, does not die. The soul is full of knowledge, and the soul is in bliss in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's our constitution. This is the way we are happy. Transcendental loving service for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural to every living being. Now, for those of us in the material world, this quality has become dormant, like in a sleeping condition, because we have associated with the material modes, especially passion and ignorance. And those activities of passion and ignorance has covered this tendency and made it dormant for years and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, from time immemorial. And so if a living being, especially one in a human body, becomes fortunate to associate with the pure devotees of the Lord and gets a chance to hear the unadulterated glories of the Lord, get a chance to hear that, then this dormant situation is changed. The instinct of devotional service is at once awakened, as Sri Prabhupada puts it. And then when that happens, then devotional service takes place like a river that's flowing constantly. So by association with pure devotees, this dormant state gets awakened. And that's where real happiness is. When one is serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, life becomes very, very, very wonderful. It is wonderful because it comes from the internal nature of a person. It comes from the soul. And it is wonderful in that we see instances in one's life, the one that's serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where the Lord is there, where in situations that we couldn't have dealt with, he sets up things so that we are able to get our life facilitated, literally, even the material life. And there are several instances that I'm sure in your own lives, if you give your heart to the Lord and say that, dear Lord, from today, everything I do should be sanctioned by you, you will begin to see that there are situations where our brains or our minds couldn't have figured out what to do, but the Lord sets up our situation in our immediate environment so that solutions come. My Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, describes it that if we get to that point where we are fully surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, life is like Krishna magic. One thing after another that we didn't expect. And magic is an absolutely fitting word for that, because in magic, people just get surprised. How it's not possible for this to happen, but it happened anyway. The magician does that. Sometimes they use tricks, sometimes there's mystic powers that they have acquired that they're able to do it. But the same thing happens with a devotee's life. Sometimes the smallest things. On the road, driving, at home, in different situations. And one thing after another would show how the Lord is alert and protective of his devotees. And this happens when that dormant instinct of devotional service is awakened. And how does it get awakened? By being around a pure devotee of the Lord. It is also backed up in the same statement in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, in text 29. Again, Srila Prabhupada comments that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stressed, has emphasized the importance of association with pure devotees of the Lord. And he backs it up by saying that even a moment's association with the pure devotee can cause one to achieve all perfection. The pure devotees carry the energy of the Lord, the internal energy of the Lord. The Lord is locked up in their hearts, and they speak about the Lord, and they can excite devotees about the pastimes of the Lord. And in so many ways, by their own behavior, one can learn a lot about how to relate to other devotees and also serve the Lord nicely. So even a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can achieve all perfection. Then Srila Prabhupada gave an example of himself. The first time that his friend convinced him to go see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, who was preaching, when they got there, he and his friend, in the first few minutes, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj noticed Srila Prabhupada and told him, "You are a young man, you're educated, why don't you spread the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the West, all around the world, in the West, especially in the English language?" Now, it took Srila Prabhupada a little bit by surprise, Abhay Babu, at that time he was called Abhay Charan. And he said that, he responded that, well, India is going through so much. There is politics, there are the British people trying to control the country, and the country is trying to free itself and become independent. And so that's what the focus is on. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj said that this whole spreading of the preaching from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot wait, is more important. And then he answered the question from Abhay Charan, Srila Prabhupada, that what do you think? By getting independence, that India is going to be free? He says there will still be politics. The politicians will change, but politics will continue. In other words, wrongdoing, cheating, and so on is not restricted to just the British. Other people from other races do it too. And since India is another one of the races of the people, that they will also have that tendency. The British may have done it on a large scale, and if you get your independence, what is India going to do? The Indian people are going to do? They will all become saints overnight. So what is important is to preach the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so people will have the opportunity to prepare to leave this cosmic jail that people think that's all there is to life. So many things for an intelligent person can lead that person to realize that there has to be more to life than this struggle for existence, working hard, the Pavargas, working hard, pa and pa, foaming in the mouth, and then there's fear, and then so many things, and then finally death comes. This is the life that's there. There has to be something better than that. If the Lord is all merciful and all powerful and all loving, there has to be something better than that. Some living entities going through so much suffering, some not having as much intelligence, those not in human bodies, all of that's around us. And we get into our houses when the weather changes. And by the way, the weather we don't have any control over. So we don't get good weather a good bit of the time. We don't. And if we go into our houses to protect ourselves from the change of weather and make it a little bit more conducive to us at home or in the buildings, the trees, who are also living entities, they are outside and they're taking all that the weather hits them with. So you realize something can't be right. It's not quite right. Just a little bit of intelligence will give us that situation. And so this is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is spreading, that when we chant the holy name of the Lord, then we can get out of this situation because this is a situation for incarceration. It's because we're incarcerated that things don't flow so much to our liking, and we wind up dying also. Hmm? So, Srila Prabhupada said, a moment's association with the pure devotee can change a person's life, can connect them with their real essence, their spiritual self. And it happened in just a few minutes of Srila Prabhupada himself meeting His Divine Grace Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And he took up this task and began to, among other things, translate and give purport to the Srimad Bhagavatam. But Srila Prabhupada's point was, if he had not met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur at that opportune moment and gotten this message in just a few minutes, he probably would have stayed in business and become a big, rich person in business because he was headed that way. And that would have been his life on the material level. As his wife was saying, oh, let's just worship at home, deities at home, and that's all. Let's not take on any kind of big activity around the world. Because Srila Prabhupada tried to invite his wife to go with him in this process of adhering to his spiritual master's request. And so now, because of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj's statement, request for just a few minutes, all of this, including the big International Society of Krishna Consciousness, came to be, and 108 temples were built in Srila Prabhupada's lifetime. Another example is with Vidura. And his brother, older brother, was Dhritarashtra, the emperor at the time when the Pandavas were around. Maharaj Dhritarashtra mistreated the Pandavas just because he wanted Duryodhana to be the next king. In so many ways that Pandavas were mistreated. It was all planned by Dhritarashtra, or he had knowledge of it, and he never really did much to be on the side of the Pandavas. And then after the war, and he had lost all his sons, including the Duryodhana that he wanted to be king after him. Finally, his brother's words got to him. Vidura's words got to him, because now he turned around, he realized everything is messed up. Politics, economy, family attachment, where's the family? Here we're gone. Where are the elders he was looking up to? Dronacharya, Bhishma, they were gone. So his activities were frustrated because he was thinking in a demonic way. So the sadhu, Vidura, was the one that finally was able to speak, and it took very strong words to paint a picture of what was really happening to Dhritarashtra to get him to leave the palace and go to the forest. Vidura pointed out that you really have sunk to a very low level now, because the one that's killed your children is the one who's going to be feeding you now. So now your very your pride, for lack of a better word, is affected, and you're still going to sit down in this palace. You're not the king, but you just sit down and then take from the people who you mistreated. What kind of thinking is that? So leave. And Vidura painted the alternative of him, Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari, leaving to go spend time fully with things that are spiritual in the forest. Just get away from all of this politics, the bad politics and the war and all of that you are responsible for. It takes a pure devotee coming to change the mind of a person like that. was in the demon situation. The story of Narada Muni. Also in Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 41, Srila Prabhupada quotes a short part of Narada Muni's life. He was also born of a Shudra woman, but he became fortunate enough because he was able to associate with some sadhus in the rainy season, Chaturmasya, that time, 4 months of the rainy season, where his mother was actually serving these sadhus, these saints. And he got he was small, about 5 years old then. And he was with them and he heard from them and he took the remnants of their prasadam. He had no knowledge of his father. He had no academic education. And so he was by material standards of a lower status. But simply by associating with these devotees and eating their remnants, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the devotees. And then his life later on became very, very glorious. So being around devotees, his taste for chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord increased. They became more prominent. And because the Lord is absolute, the glories of the Lord are also the Lord. So he was hearing the Lord, therefore he was associating with Krishna through hearing from these sadhus in the sound representation. That's why it is also important very much for us to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The life of Ajamil. Ajamil started off very nicely being born in a wonderful Brahmin family, but again, just momentary sight of a Shudra with a prostitute in a very compromising sexual pose, they were all over each other, changed his mind. And he became a debauchee. He, in fact, married that prostitute, divorced his wife, his wonderful, wonderful Brahminical wife, divorced her, and then started with this prostitute. So he became a person with so many bad qualities. Again, the association that he got by being able to, by seeing the situation and going to the prostitute and making the prostitute a life partner, being with him, then, of course, all of the good qualities went down. Bad association, that's what happens. So the conclusion is that the type of association that we involve ourselves with has significant influence on everyone's perception, especially as far as the modes of material nature are concerned. The type of association. Therefore, the advice is your best friend should be a devotee. So your best friend should be able to help you to advance in Krishna consciousness. Make a devotee that can help you your best friend, and you have a very good chance of growing in Krishna consciousness. When you're with non-devotees, when we are with non-devotees, we should be on guard to make sure we discuss topics in the mode of goodness. A non-devotee will not make us Krishna conscious, but they're all around us, and actually, they're more of them than devotees. So in situations that we find ourselves in, sometimes it's work, sometimes it's family members that are not devotees, we will be in situations where we have to have discussions with them. Stay in the mode of goodness. Stay in the mode of goodness. And what's mode of goodness? You go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 42, it lists it all there. The Brahmanas who are in the mode of goodness, Samadhama, Titiksha, it's there. Read that. So the reference is chapter 18, text 42. I'm looking at the time now, so we're going to go through details about that. And live like that. If at work, your co-workers want to get together, and indulge in sense gratification, you don't owe them that association. You don't. Mm? You can stay with the things that the business wants you to be about, and outside of that, no association that involves sense gratification, because you can be pulled into that. We have to be very, 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 very careful. And also make sure that we are around. We should make sure we're around and that we're communicating with gurus and senior devotees with more experience in devotional life. And just like the example is given, if you want to learn how to play tennis well, you play with an experienced tennis player, or you play with the coach so you can get some points from them. Hmm? So there should be the person who can help in making us understand more about devotional life, answering our questions. That person should be there in our life. Everyone should have a person or persons like that. Hmm? So the type of association is very important, and Maharaj Pariksit is describing how fortunate everyone is to have Shukadev Goswami's presence at that time. Hmm? So he definitely praised Shukadev Goswami in a very wonderful, with choice words, and saying, as it said in the translation, the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead. Also, in the same way, the sins of a man are immediately vanquished in the presence of a great saint. And so he was implying that we were fortunate that we all now can hear. They had Shukadev Goswami present there in person, and we have the words of Shukadev Goswami, Krishna in sound form, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that also removes the darkness in our hearts and gives us the light of spirituality at the highest level. So we are very fortunate that the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he translated Srimad Bhagavatam, and now we can hear, among many other books, it's 84 books in total. And now we can hear, and now we can read, and now we can learn from each other. So we should take great advantage of the situation that we have now so we can go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you, dear devotees, for allowing me to do this service. Now, this is the time we can unmute. Anyone who wants to make comments can unmute themselves now and make comments. Ask questions, share some realization, whatever you feel like doing, we all can benefit from it. You can also use the chat box and leave a message there, which will be read. Hare Krishna. So please unmute yourself if you want to make a comment. So there's one in the chat. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So this is the greeting part of it. So I'm sure that, and this is from Mansuya Mataji, so I'm sure that there'll be more that's following. Krishna consciousness is, okay. So to continue this, sometimes for job situations, we have to attend lunch meetings, and that's unavoidable. This is part of company. Okay. So I'm sure the question will come. And lunch meetings, yes. He says, how can we protect ourselves and still participate? So there's time, place, and circumstance. So the whole chat is sometimes for job situations, the requirement by the company, we have to attend lunch meetings, and that's unavoidable. How can we protect ourselves and still participate? One, we need to let, because now people are sensitive to those who are meat eaters and those who are vegetarians. We've got to make it clear that we are vegetarian, because normally in lunch meetings, some lunch will be served. We are vegetarians. Therefore, we don't get a plate that has some meat in it. That's the first step. Make sure that we avoid that. Now, we can, in fact, have something to eat or drink. We can be choosy as far as the fruits and so on that are offered. We may want to just have that. And the other thing is you have to say a prayer because the situation, which is not normally how you eat, offering food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and taking the remnants. This is how the Buddhists do. And so it is an uncomfortable situation for the Buddhists. But there's also time, place, and circumstance. This is a circumstance that the devotee himself or herself did not want to get into, but the company that he or she works for has put that devotee in that situation. So you can have some juice to drink. You can take the fruits out of it. You don't need it. There's no requirement that you have to eat the whole thing. There's no requirement. But the first thing is to make sure that they don't serve you meat, fish, eggs, things like that. And there's mercy built into this whole process. And therefore, Krishna is not rigid. He's very understanding. The Guru is also very understanding. If Guru was not understanding, we should be chanting 64 rounds instead of 16 rounds. So you have to understand the mercy is there. So in that situation, the first thing to protect yourself is make sure that you don't get a plate that has meat, fish, or eggs in it. As a matter of fact, you should also make sure that there's no onion, and if there is, put it aside, don't eat it. No garlic, no mushroom. Those incite motor passions in us, and therefore we ask not to consume those either. But yeah, it is one of the difficult situations that the devotee sometimes faces because the business is requiring it. So we pray for forgiveness in a situation like that, and then make sure that at least we don't involve ourselves in any meat eating. What is not regular about it is that we don't get to offer that particular foodstuff to Krishna because it's to us. Anyway, there's more following this from Sriya Vrajavihari Prabhu once said that his lunch meetings, he would take salads only and take a dressing from home. And he would also do advanced menu checking to see what is safe and not safe for him as a devotee diet. Again, so all right, so that's very close to what we're talking about. He would take salad and he would make sure that the dressing came from home. So that's good advice. Take that with you and take only salad. And for that matter, and sometimes in airplanes too, when they're serving lunch, they would serve, you can ask for Jane, which also includes the type of food that are close to us, to what we can take. Still, the point is, we're not able to offer it and have it like prasadam. But we definitely can pray within the circumstance for the Lord's mercy and then take what we can. I know His Holiness Chandamali Swami has made a point one time. He says he's been traveling and he always takes, and my Gumaj like that too, they would take nuts, bag of it that's already been offered, and they would take that instead of the food that's served on the plane. But we should make sure that whatever we take is not, against the principles of meat, fish, or eggs. That we should make sure, at the very least. Good point, good question, good discussion to bring up. Any other points? You can unmute yourself. If not, then we're close to the hour. And we thank you all for coming. And this is, still the beginning of the week. You should have a wonderful day and the rest of the week. Keep chanting and associate and make it a priority to associate with saints and limit the association of those who are not saintly to just as needed only. And then in that way, we will grow by learning from the sadhus who are more experienced. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakapatarugascha kripa sindhve evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai. So have a good day, devotees. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.